back at Barza Wire. So as you've seen, we have several different types of content published on Barza Wire. Farmer stories, resources, spotlight stories, scripts of the week, and opportunities. Our farmer stories share news about small-scale farmers. Our resources share agriculture information or broadcasting tips. Our spotlight stories share profiles of radio broadcasters, and opportunities are placed to find trainings, journalism awards, and competitions. There are many ways you can use these stories and resources in your work. We'll dig into some ideas for how to use farmer stories and resources, since we've already discussed how you might use interview and drama scripts or backgrounders, which are published in Barza Wire's Script of the Week section. If you have any comments or questions, please add those to the chat box. And we would like you to tell us about how you are using farmer stories and resources. So starting with farmer stories, ultimately, these are news stories. So maybe you will learn something new in what you are reading. I suggest you read Barza Wire regularly just to learn what's going on in the world of agriculture. This will keep you well informed as a farm radio broadcaster, making you a better source of news and information for your listeners. A story might provide you with inspiration for an upcoming episode. Maybe you'll learn something and decide to do more research or interviews with farmers to talk about the issue during an upcoming program. The farmer stories might also inspire your reporting. Perhaps the farmer is discussing a crop grown in your region. Interview farmers in your region to learn if they are facing similar challenges or using similar practices as discussed in the story. Perhaps the story will give you an idea of questions to ask farmers in your own area, or questions to ask an expert in your area. You will ask the expert whether they would recommend similar practices for farmers in your area or region. And maybe the story is not about the particular crop grown in your region, but the broad challenges farmers are facing: pests, irrigation, soil fertility, market prices, processing. They still might apply to crops grown in your region. So think of our stories as a way to keep well informed on agricultural issues and as inspiration for your programming. You can also read our stories directly on air, perhaps during a news segment of or on your farmer program. If the story is from your own country, it makes for great news to include on air at any time. If you serve a rural audience, you know that stories about farmers and agriculture are important to your listeners. Maybe the story is interesting and offers good advice. Then perhaps you want to read it on air during your farm program, either just to inform your listeners, as in a news segment, or perhaps to start a discussion with callers or an expert. Our farmer stories are written to be read on air. This means that they're written in short, simple sentences that should be easy for a listener to understand. But you may want to translate the story into your local language before putting it on air. After reading it on air, you could ask listeners to call or write in with their comments, or you could interview an expert on the topic to give some advice to local farmers. In this way, you start a discussion about the topic covered in the story. You can even build a whole segment on the topic of one farmer story if you also use a related script of the week or a resource to put together the segment. Use the story to introduce the topic and the script to explore it more in depth. And to use our resource section to better understand agricultural issues so that you can ask experts good questions. There's a lot of good information here if you know what you're looking for. As I mentioned previously, we have two types of resources on Barza Wire. Sometimes we publish resources about broadcasting techniques, like guides for developing gender-sensitive programming or how to conduct a focus group. We've tagged these resources as broadcasting, so you can find all of them. Often we share our own broadcaster how-to guides here. So you can use these resources to improve your skills as a broadcaster or to learn something new. We also publish resources on agricultural issues, such as integrated pest management, conservation agriculture, climate change, nutrition, and a variety of others. Here are some ideas on how to use these resources in your radio program. But feel free to tell us how you are using resources and what topics you would like to see covered. You might use a resource when doing research for your farmer program. If you know an upcoming episode will be on a new topic, search Barza Wire to see if there are any stories or resources on the topic. Pieces in our resource section will give you lots of technical information, which might be very useful when you're interviewing an expert. Knowing technical information will mean that you can ask the right questions of experts, and you can challenge experts to more fully explain the issue and practices they recommend. In general, these resources are a great way to learn more about the major issues in agriculture, like climate change, soil fertility, gender issues, and environmental protection. You may also find inspiration in our resources by reading at least our short summary each week. You will learn a little bit about important issues affecting farmers and rural communities. You may decide to do a future episode on one of these issues, and you can find related farmer stories and inspiration in the related content section. So to summarize, we've just finished discussing some of the ways to use our Barza Wire content. You might use our farmer stories to keep informed on news in agriculture or to inspire an upcoming farmer program. Maybe you use the information in the story to help you develop interview questions for farmers in your own area, or maybe you read the story in the news section of your farmer program. We produce two types of resources in the resource section. Some resources are about agricultural issues and can help you if you are doing research on a specific topic for your farmer program. They might give you information so that you can ask good questions in an interview, give you ideas of experts to interview, or you might learn something new that inspires you to do a program on that topic. But if you want to know more about the major issues facing farmers, read the resources in Barza Wire. We also share resources that can be good training materials. Some of these are our own broadcaster how-to guides, while others are style guides or tips produced by other organizations. We hope these resources help you enhance your broadcasting skills. This brings us to the end of our webinar. We hope you have learned something about how to search for and use the content on Barza Wire and in the Farm Radio resource packs.